While doing research for a video of mine, that video being on I Eat Pasta for Breakfast, the overall face for Creepypasta Comic Dubs, I managed to stumble across more of these comic dubs, then even more, and some more, even some as recent as a week ago as of writing this. Since there were so many, I couldn't possibly just cover them all in every other video. Thus, here I am, creating the unnecessary deep dive into Creepypasta Comic Dubs. Spooky here, and I like to go over niche fandom topics that not many people know about and probably shouldn't know about. Or fandom, if you will. And who asked for this video, you may ask? No one. There were like 2 people that asked me for a part 2, or well, I guess 3 to this little series of mine. I am just a lunatic who likes talking for a long time about cringy things I find interesting. Which, if that's up your alley, hey, feel free to like the video and subscribe. Please, this video is going to be like an hour long. I put way too much effort in these, and it's only me. Today, I want to go over these comic dubs and really look into the appeal of them. Why were they so popular? Why did people flock towards them like birds? Is it ethical to portray fictional murderers in such a way? Would this still hold up to today's standards of the internet? Like I said, this could be part 3 to a series, so I recommend you watch my other 2 videos on the subject. You don't have to, but me going in a little more depth into creepy frozen pasta and the reboot for I Eat Pasta for Breakfast will make a little more sense if you do. Or you can go to this timestamp right here and just skip those sections to get to the stuff I haven't already covered. Obviously, don't send any hate to any of the creators involved. Even the one that you'll see have done things that are on the level of a Minecraft YouTuber. If anything, I want to see support for the artists, minus the problematic one, of course, since comics do take so much time, let alone comic dubs. That is not an invitation to harass the artist and ask about the past, whether the artist is still around or not. This video is just for entertainment and nostalgia. Warnings will be applied when I see necessary, so here's a reminder that there are timestamps. So if you're sensitive to that stuff, you can skip to the next segment. Or if you want to skip around because there's a particular comic dub that interests you, or you want to see, all that jazz. Overall though, there most definitely will be blood throughout this video, but shouldn't be anything extreme. Usually this is where I'll put my disclaimer that I don't know too much about creepypasta, but I think I've dived so deep that I can no longer say that. I know a lot about creepypasta now, for better or for worse. It's the Slenderverse that I have yet to explore other than like Marble Hornets, which I am so normal about. If I get anything wrong or if you have criticism, please let me know and comment down below. With that, let's get started. I Eat Pasta for Breakfast, a name I am all too familiar with and have said more than I ever wanted to, was made by Chibi Works, or who now goes by Toby Does It All. Since releasing my video on it, I've been informed that Toby had done a reboot a while back. I also learned how to properly use DeviantArt. The things I do for content. And I'll be recapping Creepy Frozen Pasta, but this is I Eat Pasta for Breakfast, and if you know, you know. Trust me when I say that I Eat Pasta for Breakfast was like an acid trip. Hell, I'm sure you've come from said video if you're watching this. All you need to know is that it was weird, bad weird, with rapid age growth, a never-stopping source of OCs, and child nudity. Sure, it had some good bits, but it was hard to get through for the most part. There's a reason it has its own video, after all. Besides that, Toby did participate in things like Ask a Character, as well as write the origin stories of OCs that were featured in the original comic. She also had other series besides I Eat Pasta for Breakfast, which I could really admire the comic artist's dedication. There were a few pages of I Eat Pasta for Breakfast that was never turned into a dub, but I kind of find it meaningless to look at because it's just more characters we haven't seen and Zalgo, who I genuinely despise in this comic. With that in mind, let's look at the reboot of I Eat Pasta for Breakfast. We start out similar to the first one with Lazari's mother hanging from a tree. This time, while talking about it, Lazari says good. good. This comic's version of Slender comes by saying he'd take her to a safe place, but the air around them told her otherwise, then telling her she may die. We get a better view of Lazari too, and we see her design has dramatically changed and for the better. Lazari's mind said she was fine with dying. We see the replacement for EJ being a character named Zachary, and we find out that this version of Slender is called Zira. Zira? Yeah. Smelling Zachary's food, Lazari becomes hungry as she opens her mouth and goes for a bite. Before Zachary can stab her, Zira stops him and chokes him, tearing Lazari off. She apologizes as he tells her to relax, exclaiming to Zachary she's not his lunch, leaving Lazari on the couch. Coming in, we see the replacement for Jeff as he talks to Lulu. Seeing Lazari though, he stops and he glares at her before telling her that he's Milo and he will be her big brother now. She says she doesn't understand, and Milo becomes a freak as he says that she'll be his sister forever, and he will love her until she dies. Lulu then puts a hand on Milo, telling him he's scaring her. Trembling, Milo says he's sorry and that he's here, and he won't let anyone hurt her, trying to comfort her but doing pretty much the opposite. We switch to Zalgo as Stripes comes in saying she can't find her anywhere. He tells her it's not her fault, and in a moment they can look for her together. He buries Lazari's mother, saying that he feels guilt, he suppose, and it puts him at ease, saying that they have to be off, that if Zara or Mammon found her, his daughter, it'll lead to war. Back to Lazari, Milo is holding her, saying that she's his little sister and mentioning that he used to have a sister like her and he loved. That was until she rejected him. Eyebrow raise, creep behavior, but Zara then tells him to let her go or he'll kill him. Milo says fine, and Lazari runs off as Zara apologizes as he tells her that Milo won't hurt her. He gives her his butterflies to calm her down, which I believe is part of his abilities. Asking why she was in the forest, Lazari goes into her trauma with her mother and how she made her watch, telling her God doesn't love her, etc. Lazari states that she is next, smelling the ones Zara ate before her, which he replies saying it was a thought, but she would be more useful alive than dead. Zara says that she belongs to them now, and that she will be housed and assigned an observer, that she will be fed too since she bit his guard dog, ending with him saying she needs a bath as well due to the dry blood. And that's it for the reboot of the infamous I Ate Pasta for Breakfast, which I have to say, incredible improvement with the writing, same with the artwork and the overall comic. I enjoyed it. I cannot lie. I fucked with it. Except for that one incest scene, until it's addressed in the comic and how Toby handles it, it's gonna be an eyebrow raise, but whatever. The comic format and the atmosphere was stunning and had a spooky vibe to it. The art is consistent and obviously better prior to the years before. It's more straight to the point in the writing, which I can enjoy after all these years, and instead of trying to meet a quota of creepypasta characters to draw the audience attention, it sticks with a few, and a few original characters at that. When it comes to creepypasta and people's interpretation of them, especially back then, it definitely doesn't help the story since there's no exact pinpoint of personality. With Toby trying to make it lighthearted and fun at the start, it definitely didn't help with the transition to something darker. I also think it was cool they decided to keep their original characters and bring them with the story. It helps to get more adjusted to it and more adjusted to the new characters with their roles. They even did this in the current comic they are working on by having Lulu be a teacher, which was pretty silly. And if it were to continue in the future, which I doubt it will since it was a remake in 2018, I'd probably tune in time to time to check on it since it seems like it could have potential. Toby definitely has improved since the original comic, and it's cool to see the growth. That does not exempt her from the criticism in my previous video though. If anything, I still have criticism for Toby, especially with their recent comic. I think Toby is an interesting person since they have been on the internet for so long. I mean, she made I Eat Pasta for Breakfast when she was 19, which a lot of people assume she was younger. No, she doesn't get that card. She was 19, alright. Which, still a teenager, but it should be old enough that you should. Yeah, you get it. I'm not going to pick on a kid other than light criticism, or if they're older than me, because Toby is around 29 now. I think she can handle if they were to come across my video. I don't think they're a bad person. I just think they're a little weird though. Bad weird, but that's just my opinion from what I've seen of the artist. I don't mean any hate towards them. It's just my opinion. I'm way too blunt on the internet. Ranging from the literal child nudity, no, I cannot get over that. Slightly shipping a child and an adult, allegedly drawing NSFW of said characters. Okay. So, while in the process of editing this, I found out it was not so allegedly. I didn't think I would have to bring such heavy stuff this early into the video, but here we go. So, warnings for this little edited section: underage NSFW, non-con, and grape. No, that is not to be funny. I just don't want this to be age restricted. Yes, I will continue to use it. I get it. It's not fun to say either. Please skip to this timestamp if you're sensitive to this. Do whatever you have to do to keep yourself safe and to actually enjoy what you're consuming. So yeah, turns out, yes, Toby had drawn NSFW of Lazari and Eyeless Jack, and from what I've seen, it's when she's 18 plus. But that does not make up for it, since she would have still been a child when she met Eyeless Jack. Not to mention, she missed 4 years of her life because she was in fact aged up, which was already weird. She could have actually drawn NSFW of Lazari underage, but I'm sure most of that stuff has already been wiped, if so. Which, this is what Toby had to say in 2020. Pause if you want to read it. Turns out, though, she did in fact draw NSFW of an underage character, and that would be Lulu, who is said to be forever 15 to 14 in the comics. Apparently, she's 24 years old mentally, but if that's the case, I see no reason why she should be in the same body of a teenager while being drawn explicitly. Also, it is confirmed by Toby themselves on multiple occasions that Zolgo did grape her, and they have encouraged and interacted with explicit drawings of Lulu before. Not only that, but back then, they seemed to have a thing for Masky being graped by Zolgo, having reposted someone's art of it as well as having drawn reference to it. I don't think Toby is a horrible, evil person. I really do hope she has grown. I mean, it's been a whole ass decade. It could be me being naive, but oh well. It's still understandable as to why people would be uncomfortable with them and want to distance from IEPFB for breakfast. Hell, me too. I don't think I can ever take more of Toby's work and just talking about them with what was shown. But for the love of whatever's up there, don't send hate. It's not worth the effort, since this is from so long ago, and you really should focus on more important matters than this thing from nearly a decade ago. Funny to hear it from the guy making a video on it, but it's true. Anyways, back to me being blissfully unaware of this information and being silly. The weird story and handling of Lulu, and of course the unforgivable twinkification of Zolgo and Masky, as well as the strange humor of sexual harassment, and a bit weird representation of DID. I also don't have a DID, so I may be wrong, maybe this is accurate, you tell me. Anyways, I think I'm forever done talking about I Eat Pasta for Breakfast and the artist. Surely it won't be brought up again. Oh wait? What's that? Someone is trying to remake it? Sorry, someone's? Multiple people? Creepy Frozen Pasta and the story of Annie the White was made by Annabelle YouTube, or otherwise known as Lost White back when the comic was popular. Let it be known, Annie is no longer a creepypasta since the creator left the fandom, using her in her other work. To recap for those who decided to pass up on my previous video, or for those who don't quite remember it, Creepy Frozen Pasta takes place after Annie gets found by Slenderman. Slender helps her with her pain and tries to find the person who made her, her. In the meantime, Jack and Ani are, yeah, I switch up between the two, okay, sorry, are building up to a romantic relationship. Later, Ani has an episode which results in a horde of husks showing up at the mansion where they have an epic anime battle. We get the information on who made Ani, and it's some powerful guy named the Necromancer who speaks through the husk. To finish them off, Ani has a main character moment, reaping all of the souls from the husk. Because of this whole incident, Slenderman is going to be more harsh on Ani, and we switch to a cliffhanger and the ending to season 1. The Necromancer's voice telling someone to kidnap her. The discontinued season 2, we see that over the month, Ani is chained up and kinda experiences mental torture, with no sight of the Necromancer anywhere. I think that if you had to point out a straight couple, this scene would be a prime example and why so many fruit salads can't ship straight people. Except for them. You can't take them away from me. Ani goes to bed and we see the Necromancer's kidnapper named Damien. Next day they have to go to a formal event or an operator meeting, and upon arriving we meet Slenderman's brother and the rest of the operators in this universe. There may be more though, I don't know. Because Damien is flirty, Jack and Ani talk out on a balcony where Damien later interrupts. He freezes everyone as he carries out his kidnapping with another character who turns into an owl of sorts and takes off with them. After Jack breaks out, he tells everyone they took Ani, and that is where the comic dub portion ends. To recap a little bit of my final thoughts portion of the video, it was an overall good comic. The writing was just a little wonky and corny, character designs were pretty awful, and it was basically Crackerville. Necromancer was also a dud of a villain since we aren't really given a good reason to fear him. Also, unseasoned chicken if it had a baby type ship. In the end though, I only hold respect for the artist because of the amount of time and effort she put in it. Same with the voice actors, even if you can tell none of them had much experience beforehand. That aside, let's pick up where we last left off, shall we? We see characters we haven't seen before a few miles away. As they talk, this includes Laughing Jack, Laughing Jill, and the Puppeteer. Also, this girl named Emra, who is a part of the Puppeteer's canon. We see them talk about the information Mara was getting, who was an operator at the meeting. We learned that they've also had to deal with hordes of husks. Jill points out something in the distance, and that being the people who kidnapped Ani. Someone named Someone named Hodek comes back and asks if they're ready to hunt down some whites. I literally will never take calling them whites seriously, like come on. I guess you really could say your whole cast of characters are whites. The operators come out and Splendor is obviously beaten, having his place infiltrated, then being informed of the situation about Damien, which the other pastas sympathize with. We get to see more of Twink Maskey, and man, this hurts a lot more after watching Marvel Hornets. The earlier fandom did him so dirty. Like, Tim, my baby girl, what did they do to you? And then we see the slender brother that's not allowed 50 feet near a school, as he says he doesn't see a reason in rescuing Ani. Jack gets upset, telling him to shut up, Offenderman responding by strangling him and threatening him back. Slender says that's enough, and say that despite Ani's abilities, he doesn't want to see the reason why the Necromancer would need her, as well as using her as leverage. Trender says Mara made a call and to leave it up to them, but Slender says he'd like to send backup just to be safe, which means the majority of characters agreed to come with. Slenderman says it's settled and they'll have to change their attire since they won't return until the task is complete. Toby questions how they're going to catch up since they escaped on a bird. Splendor uses this to reveal that his ability opposes Slender's and to aid them since he technically caused this. Back to Damien and the getaway girl, or the bird, Gabriella. They fight in the forest as Gabriella is building up stamina to run again, Ani being passed out during it. She pouts at his previous remark when they start to see light, Damien saying they need to leave. Portal of lights show up and we see Jeff halfway out and EJ coming from another out for Damien. Everyone else is quick to show up, telling them to hand her over. And in response, Gabriella says she worried over nothing, which is fair. I would say the same if I saw these goofballs. Damien tells her to handle them, and she says she will with pleasure. Jack goes in only to be cut off by Gabriella, telling him he has to go through her first. This is where the comic officially ends and is discontinued. About 2 months later, after this panel, the artist goes on to say that the creepy frozen pasta is over, both due to her not being interested in creepypasta any longer, as well as wanting to make a living on her own and her original content. She eventually put a poll to spill the end of creepy frozen pasta, which of course everybody wanted. Later that day, she said that she'd be up for writing out and finishing the ending as a fan fiction of sorts. She even planned on featuring fan art and to have it submitted to a tag, etc. But this never ended up happening, at least not from what I could find. There's such a history with creepy frozen pasta and the era of that time that I don't think I'll ever get a fully grasp on. Hell, same goes for all of these comic dubs. Like the classic Ask the Characters or Dare the Characters, and you've got the Pocky Challenge and dressing up characters, you get it. Including many of these MMDs, which, like, seeing these again opened something I didn't know was there in my brain, because goddamn did I eat these up too, gnawing on it like one of those Lego toy tires. Yeah, that's just me. Most did just include Ani and Jack though, and I just wanted to see the Toby parts as a kid, so you know. And speaking of the ship, the artist also released a video which is now unlisted talking about her reasoning behind shipping the two. She acknowledges that the ship itself is pretty cliche, but nonetheless, she found comfort in it since it reflected her and her partner's relationship. Basically, what she liked most about the ship and why she chose to go with it is that their trauma, while similar, changes the characters in two different ways. While Eyeless Jack held a lot of anger, Ani held a lot of sadness. The reason she chose to ship Ani with Jack is because he was pretty much a clean slate that she could craft in her own image to suit Ani more, which is probably why you would see more characters be shipped with Eyeless Jack, such as their similar trauma, since there was never a canon backstory for him. The artist was able to create one for him to fit Ani more. This is pretty much the rest I've found on Creepy Frozen Pasta. I would make a final thought section, but I think I'm gonna try a new format for this video. Plus, I'm okay with not having to spew more of my opinions on this, because honestly, I couldn't do more. My thoughts from the last video still stand. Nothing really changed upon seeing more than solidifying it. I will say it was amusing seeing that the artist was fighting for her life on Amino, which is fair. I'm pretty sure everyone was, especially since creepypasta is such an absurd fandom that has to rely on other people's OCs and writing. Nothing actually produced or backed up by multiple people, other than Hoodie and Masky from Marble Hornets, but that was just kind of stolen by the creepypasta fandom. Same with the operator symbol, or what was known as the proxy symbol, which I know we're a bit off track, but I genuinely don't see a problem with people still having Hoodie and Masky being drawn in with creepypasta, as long as they properly portray the characters with how they look and act, and maybe even, add Alex or Jay or, Scully into the mix. Just saying, it's not like I have a deep fixation on Jay as a character. What? No. Once I get my hands on the comics, it's so over for everyone. Anyways, what was I talking about? Creepypasta Cafe was made in 2016 by the artist Halloween, who you can find on DeviantArt as well as Instagram, and if you click the link tree, will lead you to their other socials, but also their book if you'd like to support them. The artist does seem to be inactive now, with their last post being in 2022, but they still have exceptional work. They are more active on their other account where they promote their book more, and they've started to fix AI art, which is a bit sketchy, not gonna lie. The reasoning behind this being that it's fun and that their professor asked them to hold a class teaching students from primary school to use AI, so this is practice for them. Which I'll say it's pretty concerning for kids in primary school to learn to use AI, but that's a topic for another video sometime in the future. Following their link to Facebook, they seem to be living a good life, even having worked on a film in 2023. Unlike the other comic dubs, instead of having a specific protagonist and an original character, this comic strictly revolves around the creepypastas. Customers even having their face obscured by a letter of which they go by, or just C for customer. Instead of being story-driven as well, it's more of a light-hearted, fun thing. Even if it has no real plot, I still think it's pretty notable, having gained almost 500,000 views on the Comic Dub. Each little episode follows a specific line of writing. First, we are introduced to something somewhat normal before immediately being hit with some kind of gag or a customer, and usually at some point during the end, they kill at least someone or use someone as an ingredient, then the final scene being the meal that was conceived during the comic. It really focuses on the dynamic between the characters, and the pastas that we see are Slenderman, Jeff the Killer, Eyelash Jack, Laughing Jack, and Tiki Toby. In later comics, we see Zalgo, Homicidal Lou, Ben Drowned, and also a small scene with Sally, a Lazari cameo, and Lily, a creepypasta made by a smaller account on DeviantArt. And of course, you got your two Marble Hornets characters, Hoodie and this blonde-ass imposter. Sorry, it's so hard for me to ignore now that I have an ongoing hyperfixation on Marble Hornets. I'm literally rewatching it right now again for I think the 6th time, and yes, you're gonna hear about it. Where is my wife? Where's the dark hair with sideburns and fat? There's enough twinks, and you know that cool, whatever, but I need him. I need him to be drawn properly. Please. I am a lesbian with a deep fixation on a fictional man, and I need my goddamn fix. I don't care if this was 5 years ago. Why is he blonde? And why isn't Hoodie frowning? This is my reminder in the script to go take my medication. So now I'm reminding you. Go take your meds, kids. There were a few moments that got semi-serious, like when they had a reviewer, Mr. G, in which Slender tells them to be on their best behavior, only for Mr. G to die from one of the ingredients Slender had put down for the recipe, having to then hide the body, not wanting this to be the reason they were on the news. There's also a brief scene in which there's one of Zalgo's minions of sorts, and questions about shutting down the restaurant. Zalgo says eventually they'll destroy themselves. There's also a scene where Jeff brings Lou, his brother, lemon juice, Jeff apologizing after everything. Jeff goes to leave the lemon juice to only spot a mess of blood on the sheets, but turns out it's not, as Lou walks through the door, explaining he spilled cold syrup. Jeff cries as he thought Lou was dead, Lou telling him he is. There were a few more comics as well that weren't dubbed, but it's really just short and sweet, fun comics, nothing of too importance, but can still be appreciated nonetheless. The only ongoing instance of the comic, other than a few short 2 to 3 parters, is the cafe special, which didn't get dubbed, basically detailing how a disrespectful customer that has every reason to be disappointed gets turned into chopped liver or the gutted cake. There's honestly not much to say, it's just a silly comic. I recommend watching it if you're just feeling nostalgic. It could have taken a more serious turn, and I could see the potential in doing that, but honestly, it's good as it is for something made in 2016. Just really a reflection of the humor and the creepypasta fandom back then. And I mean, obviously, you have the twink masky and then the cheesecake joke, which, hey, apparently it didn't start out as a whole fat-shaming thing. I say apparently because I've seen people say it's from the cooking with to the art, and I will say the video is very well done, actually resembling one. But the thing is, it was a recipe for key lime pie. If anything, it would be Masky loves key lime pie, or I don't know, just pie. And if I'm correct and this is the original video, or at least a complete re-upload of it, then the joke would be that Slenderman, or else the operator, would love key lime pie. So the more you know, I guess. Not to say that people did it on purpose. I'm sure there were some people who didn't know or thought this was the case. It was pretty popular after all, but I'm not seeing anything where it proves this was not a harmful joke in the first place made to fat shame Tim. Luckily, Tim Sutton, the actor of Tim/Masky in Marble Hornets, has said that it didn't bother him and actually talked about it several times. In 2017, he said, quote, "I got mildly annoyed at one person who DM'd me, 'Are you fat because you eat so much cheesecake?' once in like 2011, and now there's always a few people who rush to my defense whenever someone mentions cheesecake around me, like it's some kind of deep personal personal trauma for me, Lamau. Even providing the cooking with to the ARC video, saying, "It came from this video, but key lime pie morphed into cheesecake somewhere along the way, probably because cheesecake is an inherently funnier word to say out loud." So yeah, I believe that the joke just shouldn't be used anymore. Instead, just joke about Slenderman and him liking key lime pie, like the whole original joke. There's also Toby liking waffles thing, since it was briefly mentioned in the comics, I'll just say it here, and I've seen many people talk about it, but it was literally just one of those things where it was just something the character liked, and then it was just blown out of proportion. There's nothing wrong with depicting him as really liking waffles. It's just an obsession is a bit much, and kind of infantilizing. It played a whole lot into the whole uwu personality, which is why it receives so much negativity now. I think it's just a silly headcanon right now, though, that it's his comfort food, and honestly, kudos to the people who still like it. Was this video a way to talk more about the creepypasta fandom? No, I would never do that. Why would you? Creepypasta Chronicles, made by an artist you may or may not recognize going by Pshattuckproductions, where a lot of creepypasta comic dubs originated, even being the place where I Eat Pasta for Breakfast was dubbed and held, as well as a ton of Undertale 2, which probably holds some significance in the community, but I've never seen much of the game and fandom, so I don't know. Creepypasta Chronicles was originally made in April 2013, going by Slender's Daughter instead. The comic was 10 pages long before it was revamped. I roped it in with the whole Slender's Daughter comic because that's basically what Creepypasta Chronicles is about, which officially came to be in September 2013, or the dub later in October. It was the first comic dub that Pshattuck has ever done. It was then later remade in 2017. When it really started to gain popularity, it was in 2018, but it didn't go on for long. Pshattuck has obviously been around for a while, but has seemingly moved on, with her last video being a year ago. Besides that account, she also has another one featuring her more original work, that being Lunar Comics, if you want to go check that one out. There's so much more to say about the creator since she has been around for a whole last decade, but you'll see that we discuss that later. With that in mind, let's get started with the comic dub, Creepypasta Chronicles. Starting the first and original episode of the series, we hear footsteps as someone spots a note. Picking it up, Slender shows up, and that person runs away. Slender puts the drawing back on the tree, and we see the artist of it, that being Slender's daughter. They go over what happened last time someone took a page, which was last week, that Slender Man killed. Tired, she asks to go home, which Slender replies sure. We then switch over to Masky, which, you know what, it's definitely not the worst I've seen, so kudos, this is progress. Masky asks how the patrol was, Slender says it went well, and upon questioning the cameras, Masky says all humans have left the forest. We see the little girl as she hangs from the ceiling. Slender picks her up, telling her to get ready for bed. Masky then tells him he needs to see something, this he being such a danger that Slender asks Masky to keep an eye on him and to call Jeff back to the house. Which, spoilers, it's Zalgo. It's always Zalgo. We see Jeff kill someone as he gets a call, Masky telling him to get back to the house since it's important. Slender gives her a plush of Smile Dog, and before he can leave her, she asks him to sing her a song. Slender does, and she falls asleep. Hoodie shows up telling him that Jeff returned. Since Zalgo is in the library, Slender tells him to keep an eye on Sen for him. In the library, Zalgo looks at a family photo of sorts as Slender asks what he's doing there. Zalgo tells him he wants him to work with him again, and Slender tells him to leave before he destroys him. Zalgo then says something about Sen, and Slender grabs him, but it's not long as a different Slender grabs him, and Zalgo calling him the monster that Slender is. As Zalgo says that he doesn't want his little girl to end up like his wife, Slender then gets woken up by Hoodie and Masky. Switching over to Sen, we see a creature wakes her up and gives her a present for her birthday that year. I think this is Widemouth. It's another creepypasta. This isn't in the script, so I don't know for sure, but pull it up if it is. Sen goes up to Slenderman with a flower, but turns out it's this reflection of him that Zalgo brought up, and then he wakes up. Looking over, we see a picture of his wife, Diana, or Sen's mother, as he says she'd know what to do. Which, I know, don't laugh, it was a decade ago. She definitely requested Angel with a Shotgun to play at their wedding, the Nightcore one, to be very specific. With the next one, we open up to Smile Dog being picked up by Toby. Sen saying that he keeps her safe when Toby isn't there, and that she wishes that Toby doesn't have to hide. Then they're interrupted by Jeff trying to kill him. Toby defends himself as he tells them to calm down. Looking over to Sen, Toby is then stabbed in the chest. Sen cries out as her stuffed animal actually turns into Smile. Before anything can really happen, Slender shows up and Sen begs for him to help Toby as Jeff complains. Later, Hoodie shows up to tell Slender that Toby will be okay. Hoodie then says he knew he should have told the others about keeping Toby alive. Arriving at the room Toby is in, Slenderman tells Sen to go downstairs and to help her uncles with her party. Leaving, Toby wakes up and he tries to explain that he's sorry for coming back. Slender asks why he did, and Toby says he made a promise to his wife to keep both him and Sen safe. Since Sen sees Toby as a friend, he welcomes him to her party. Toby tells him that he will, but first there's something he should know. While that ends the dub of this, that doesn't end the early comic. We see all of Slender's brothers, yes, all, Offenderman should have never existed, as they basically look down on the dress that Sen was supposed to be wearing, which literally looks fine. There's a man in a rainbow dotted suit next to you, focus on that. Asking for ideas from Trender, he says he'll see what he can do. He then tells Sen that Toby is allowed to stay and she thanks him. We see Slender ask if Toby is sure and he says yes, seeing whatever it is with Sen. He tells him he felt its presence when he was talking to her, and when Jeff stabbed him, it only grew stronger, making Sen powerful enough that she managed to break Zolgo's curse and free Smile. Toby noting she has her mom's abilities, hoping that his father doesn't find that out. We see that Maskey managed to downgrade, and Jeff tells him that they got everything ready and the others will be there soon. She comes back down in the dress that Trender made her, which in my opinion is worse. Like, you would not win Dress to Impress. Jeff tells her she looks good, and she responds with Drop Dead, still upset from earlier. Slender saying that now he feels his presence, just wanting the night to go smoothly. We see the party, including Sonic EXE, as Sen asks Bob, a much older creepypasta, to come with her to see who came tonight. Then we get this last comic panel. I don't know how to explain this, and that's the end of the early version of Creepypasta Chronicles. Moving on to the more recent-ish and a more popular one, we start out with Maskey running, calling for Slender. Upon arriving, he sees the corpse of Slender's wife as he cries, and it dramatically starts to rain as he quite literally pulls one of these. He says he's sorry, and we cut to Slender in a living room. Maskey asks him how she's doing, and pause. Do the Maskey designs keep getting worse? It's literally just him, no one else. What's going on? This is what happened in the timeline where Tim doesn't get his pills. God, this is so fucking dumb. I hate hyperfixations. Slenderman says she's young and probably won't remember any of what happened. Probably too young to know who her mother is. Maskey points out that's a bad thing, knowing what his child is. He says she doesn't need to know, and all he has to do is keep her slender side in check, whatever that means. Maskey notes that Diana's family won't be happy, but Slender says it's the only choice they have. 8 years later, we see Sen run up to Slender to put another drawing up on a tree. Since it's getting late, they head back. We switch over to Maskey and Hoodie, and they're watching anime since it's the only thing on TV. Okay, but you see it, right? Like, why is his hair slightly red now? The show ends, and Sen pops up saying she wouldn't even watch it. Now you definitely see it. I'm not going crazy. Anyways, she asks them if they had fun, but it's derailed as Slender picks her up. He questions where Toby is, and Hoodie says he's in the kitchen, and he'll go look only to be blasted out by Toby setting off fireworks. They fight before Hoodie's whacked over the head with an umbrella. Sen asks who she is, and the lady introduces herself as Rain, but Sen can call her grandma. Confirming that she's her grandma, she introduces Paul, who is her guardian. Sen wants to know if she knows her mom, but Slender stops it, telling Toby to take Sen back to bed. Having to have a word with Rain, they say goodnight as Slender takes her to his library. Rain and Slender obviously don't like each other, as Slender tells her to tell him why she's here, so she can leave. Rain informs him that Zolgo is returning, which Slender claims is impossible since they drained him of his powers years ago before she died. Rain compares him to a leech though, him having fed off smaller monsters for power. She's sure once he has enough power, he'll come back to kill him and his daughter, Sen, the same way he killed her daughter. and Slender's wife. They argue as Rain tells him that this is Sen's awakening stage this year, and she's only here to see if she's safe, and if she has Arc blood in her. Asking what she'll do if she thinks Sen is not safe with him, she says Sen will stay with her uncle and Rain will be training her before she would be allowed to come back. Slender tells her she can't do that, but it was approved by the council. And sounds like court to me. Where's my kids of divorce at? No? Yeah, alright, no, that's fair. She says that she's not just a Slender and that she's in danger if not given proper training. Masky interrupts to tell him Sen wanted to say goodnight to him. And Slender, he thanks him and tells Rain they're done. Rain telling him she'll see him on Sen's birthday. Rain also giving Paul the go-ahead to keep an eye on her and to inform her if anything happens. Slender hands her a plush of Smile, and before he could go on, Sen wants to know about Rain. Sen's child wonder goes on to thicken the plot as Slender tells her that she isn't like him or her, and that she is what the monsters in this world call archangels, which is pretty clever, not gonna lie. He explains that archangels are a type of monsters that hide in the human world, acting just like them, with their jobs being to protect humans, and to keep the balance between the human world and theirs. With their guardians, they fight darkness that even some monsters themselves are afraid of. He goes on to tell her that Rain is one of the Arc leaders, and she is still known as one of the most bravest angels. Sen says it's cool, asking if she could be like that when she's older, before going to bed. As Slender leaves, he's obviously distressed by this, not happy that Rain showed up, and Sen will have to learn about archangels. He hopes her not knowing will silence the Arc blood so it doesn't awaken. They'll find out in a few days for sure. We cut to whoever this guy is, and Jane throws him around saying the Lord wants him. At his feet, he says he's supposed to be dead, and then off-screen Zalgo kills him, his heart being the one he requires so he can gain his full power. Eating it, Zalgo says it feels good to go back to his old self. Jane also tells him Rain has made it to the Slender household, and Zalgo is pleased by this. That then ends the comic dub of Creepypasta Chronicles. Okay, first off, Masky is so bad. I know I can't shut my mouth, but how did older Marble Hornet fans get by? Like, Jesus Christ. I know it's not intentional, I know. That's just how people drew Masky, and they were just kind of roped into Creepypasta, but head in hands. Obviously, the 2013 one is not that great. The writing is pretty bad, and the dialogue definitely isn't that great. But its generic 2010s feeling makes me smile and feel nostalgic despite being like 4 when this came out. When I first watched it, I clocked that it was immediately inspired by the Seer, especially by the way Jeff acted, and I mean that in the most positive way. It does have bad pacing issues, with the first ever part introducing the conflict pretty quickly without allowing us to get a grasp of this world, but since it was discontinued so quickly, it's really hard to say anything really. It's one of those stories where it's like, is that a plot?
How?
Or was it just continued and never expanded upon, you know? I will say for both of them, I did like Sen's character design. I just think it's more distinct, and since everyone else was just bad in comparison, it made her look better. Like, I don't know what the hell is going on with Zalgo. Obviously though, the artist was just a beginner, and character design can be really fucking hard. Plus, Sen was around for a while to play with her design, first making her appearance in 2012, back when she was a Phineas and Ferb OC. Something that did bother me was Sen's name. Like, Sen is fine, but it's repeatedly spelled S-E-N with the dots in the text, and I couldn't find an explanation for it. Same with the characters referring her as Slender and having a slender side, which I'm so confused about what that would mean for Slender Man. Like, is Slender a species or a type of monster? If so, why would Slender Man be called that? Like, dude's parents hated him that much. Imagine being called a human man or something. Now, addressing the whole Slender Man's daughter concept, I think it would have been good if he didn't have a wife. I don't know why, but it really set me off. Like, I get having a child because of the drawings and maybe something happened there, but his wife is just kind of a plot device, just to make Slender a little more angsty, same with Sen, as well as to give her more powers and or to give her more potential at greater powers. I don't think it was intentional, but it really seems that way, especially with how crappy Diane's design is. Like, she looks completely human, but with just emo wings and a blue streak. I think I would have just liked her better if she had some kind of monster design instead. Can't say I'm the biggest fan of how Slender is portrayed either. While I get it's nice to see him having this type of father thing going on, I wish he was shown to be a bit of a bad father, like more in detail how he refuses to share about Sen's mother, etc. I think I would have maybe liked her more if my first introduction to her was from the 2018 version, but even then I'm iffy on it. Creepypasta Chronicles could have been an interesting story, but I don't think it would have had the potential to hold up today. Maybe it could though, I just have beef with his emo wife. This I was going back and forth on actually doing, but I don't think it's going to do much good not to address it, especially since many people in my comments do bring it up. Funny part, creeps is an appropriate term for this section. Yeah, oh boy. In all seriousness, Creeps was made by someone named SnuffBomb, a very big figure in the community back in the day, even creating Laughing Jack, who is still loved and used today. He worked with other comic dubs as well, such as The Seer and Pasta Monsters, possibly being the first to have Pasta Monsters as a dub on his channel, going off this re-upload I found. Mainly, he was just a voice actor in these projects, normally playing Jeff. The Seer crew had kicked him out, actually, due to him commissioning art of Jeff dismembering Corbin. SnuffBomb, or should I say Steve Ainkins, was allegedly a PDF file and rapist. Trying my best, you two, I swear. I don't want to go into too much detail, but to summarize, he was outed for being predatory, misogynistic, and abusive in relationships. Yes, multiple relationships. As well as sending inappropriate pictures to minors, and from what I've seen, cheating. There's also been mentions of him allegedly having child pornography, but for now, this is all I'll be saying. In the future, I plan to make a video on creepypasta creators, but I'd rather do that when I'm more knowledgeable and can properly go about the process. For now, I don't believe I'm qualified to go on about these creators. I hope you know, as we get into this, I will only be addressing the comic and the writing, due to it having been requested in my comment section, and because the comic dub as well as SnuffBomb overall was super big in the community. Although upsetting still causes nostalgia for others. I do want to point out that the comic wasn't entirely made by SnuffBomb either. While he owned it, the comic was illustrated by Sabrina Knight Marin, who's actually an incredibly popular artist now, who I'm sure you've seen on your TikTok For You page at some point. She was also the creator for Laughing Jill, so you know, the more you know. If you find anyone who was involved in the situation or knew him, please do not bring it up or ask questions. You don't need to know everyone's business, especially after all these years. And I guarantee you these are not exactly happy memories either. Let me make it clear, I do not encourage support for the comic or owner, only the artists who put their work into it. Starting Creeps, we open it and we open in on... I can't do it. You get some panels as I go through it, but genuinely, Creeps is the closest thing to if VivziePop was interested in creepypasta. I'm telling you, the only thing that genuinely makes it appealing is the world building and the art style. And the world isn't even his. The art style isn't even his. The voice acting is fine, but after hearing the shit he's done, it's almost like you can hear the misogyny in his voice. Not to mention the writing is mainly his jokes that feel directed at immature teenagers. Maybe the ones he sent dick pics to? The only things that were notable were the things he didn't even do. You know, like the merch he sold that included other people's art. And you know how I said the world isn't even his? Yeah, so about that, Creeps takes place in the same universe as Pasta Monsters, so directly it is based off of that, which the artist did an absolutely amazing job at portraying. The artist. Not him. The only funny thing this dude managed to pull out of his ass was having the opportunity to meet Tim, Joseph, Troy, and even Brian, even bothering to give a special thanks to Tim Sutton for, quote, helping and lending his talent. just to absolutely disrespect Maskey and Tim's character with the same twinkified bullshit, which I might make little jabs at, but knowing the state of the internet back then, I'm not even that mad at. But this is just ridiculous for having met the man behind the character himself, claiming that he lent him his help as well. I don't think Creeps deserves any attention, and I can't find it in myself to care to find other things about it. If this was your favorite comic dub when you were younger, and because you like the writing, then get well soon. If you are someone who is younger, or even if you're older, remember that you do not know content creators. You don't know their intentions, goals, no matter how authentic they come across. Hell, even me. Spooky is just exaggerated parts of me put into a persona. Is a completely different person for me, which I'll be blurring out because I don't need y'all to be acting like you know me personally. Breaking the fourth wall here, but I'll admit it, I need to hear it too. It seems like a lot of people need to hear that on the internet lately, especially Twitter. I apologize and send my support to any victims of SnuffBomb. I hope that wherever he is, he's rotting. Maybe he's even rotting in a cell by the sounds of his behavior. To cheer the mood up, we have honorable mentions! Yippee! You've made it this far. And I know, you're probably looking at your screen and putting down whatever you're fidgeting with and saying, spooky. What the hell? This is supposed to go over everything. This is like the ultimate deep dive into Creepypasta Comic Dubs. And to that I say, not my problem. By the time this is out, I'm starting up school, and this took longer than anticipated already. First on the list of honorable mentions would have to be Slender PhD. Slender PhD was made by the very same person who made Creepypasta Cafe, Halloween. It consists mainly of jabs at the creepypasta characters and their traits and interpretations of their personality. Despite being on their channel, it wasn't an actual dub there and used to text to speech, but it was covered on Pshattuck's channel. So while in the middle of editing this video, Pshattuck has decided for her mental health and to get a start up on her channel again to delete at least over 500, I believe it is, videos from her channel. And I bring this up because this includes Slender PhD, but not only that, but majority, if not all, the Creepypasta comic dubs I keep referencing. It's sad to see. I will say that it's really sad to see, especially since I'm doing an entire video on it and have been for months. But I think it's good to come in here and to say to respect the artist's decisions, and despite all this being nostalgic, that it is good to move on and to have something clean to start with. So I hope the best for Pshattuck, and it's really why I want to make videos like these, because you never know what happens with this kind of stuff, because it's not covered often, so a lot of it just goes disappearing without a trace. So yeah, just wanted to come in here. I'm probably, if anything else happens, I'm not gonna say anything else, because I've spent too long on this, and I don't want to edit more audio and edit more stuff. So yeah, this is September 23rd, so whatever happens, that's up to you to find out. But back to the video. Other than Slender and Zalgo having a little something, nothing really noteworthy. Second is Get Back to Sleep Rogers by Jinkin Art, dubbed by Cosplay All Day. The artist has gone on hiatus, so they are no longer active by the looks of it for now, but his Instagram is Jinkin Ranpa, sorry if I said that wrong, if you want to go check her out. Get Back to Sleep Rogers is a small comic depicting Maskey and Toby's relationship and sort of dislike for each other. The comic is actually a little out of character, mainly on Maskey's end, skinny legend, and slight ableism. Also, he kind of pulls a gun on Toby, genuinely thinking about pulling through and shooting him before he's interrupted by Slender, which I get fighting him, but I don't think that's something he'd really do. I do enjoy the small details, such as Toby calling him Tim, Slender static, and Tim coughing up blood. Onto the next pages, we see Brian and Tim discussing, and Tim even expressing feeling bad for snapping, while Brian just acts as a emotional support, we do see that Tim is a little more in character, which I'm eating the crumbs up. Okay, after viewing all this, it's a blessing. I also really enjoyed Toby's end, him taking the monitor to the shower since he can't feel how hot it is, as well as the little flashback. In the rest of the comic that wasn't dubbed, they're sent on a mission to rescue Jeff. While character design isn't peak, the writing is honestly really good. Same with the atmosphere and the look of the comic. Even in a couple of pages, it captivated me, and it does make you wonder about the rest of the world without being super in your face about it. Last one I want to cover a little more in depth is a comic dub I found that was released a day ago as of writing this, or the comic dub I was talking about earlier that was released a week ago as of recording this. That being Carnage Obscured. I'm really excited seeing this one because it's so recent and because guys, pause the music. Okay. Tim isn't a fucking twink. Tears, they're welling up. Do you know how long this video takes me? How long this video is taking me? And over again, I have to see the twig that is Tim Wright for months. I've had to write and talk about this fan rendition. Christ. Man, thank fuck. Carnage Obscure is made by Studio Aeroside, a studio formed by Dex and their friends, to put it shortly. They have a website if you want to get to know more about it, and the others behind the studio as well. Not just that, but also credit to the voice actors and more background artists. In general, their website includes art of theirs, updates on the comic, the actual comic form if you want to read it instead, newsletter, music from Dex, and more. I don't want to go over this too much since I really would like for you guys to check it out. I'll instead read the description the studio came up for the comic. Marin and Xavier Garcia moved from the coast of South Texas to Bottle Tree, Alabama, looking to leave behind their old lives and start anew. Something is amiss though, between the disturbing predictions given to Artemis by the Oracle and Toby's general decline in proper work ethic. Something is about to go terribly awry. Fuck you. Word I can't say. Carnage Obscured is meant to be a love letter to the 2010s. They all live in a mansion type of content that the fandom used to produce. Our biggest inspiration are comics like I Eat Pasta for Breakfast and Pasta Monsters. It's going to be a little cringe. We're doing basically fuck all with world building, and overall, I'm just having fun with it. Buckle in and embrace your inner middle schooler doing creepypasta boyfriend quizzes on Quotive, because we're going full steam ahead. As the story progresses, you'll notice quite a few changes in Marin and Toby's dynamic, as well as the dynamics between the rest of the cast. Carnage Obscured is meant to be a total overhaul of Red October, a new editing software and style, a cute little commercial break, an opening sequence / original soundtrack. We wanted to have like a sort of cartoon you'd see on TV late at night kind of vibe. Red October being an older comic of theirs, if you couldn't tell. Which, by the way, do note that this studio does other things, just basically just silly shenanigans if that's up your alley. I genuinely really love the style and the feeling this comic gives you, especially the colors. They fit so well with the style in it, and it's just generally really pretty. The dialogue and the writing is also pretty natural, which was such a pleasant surprise. Same goes with the intro and outro music. Absolutely blown away by the amount of effort put into this thing. Shout out really to everyone who worked on it. There were only a few things that I didn't enjoy, a smaller one being a font used for the intro and outro because it's kind of hard to read really, as well as the fact they put all Creepypasta and Marble Hornet characters belong to their respective owners, stating that this is only a fan work, but they are making an effort to profit off both Tiki Toby and Eyeless Jack. I don't know how Eyeless Jack's creator feels about that, so I can't say anything there. I know that Tiki Toby's creator isn't comfortable with that. Although I may not know the full situation about the creator, I think you should still respect the artist because he is his character. I'm sure they didn't mean it though, so don't go running off to their comments. It's Redbubble of all places, so I know there's definitely not a lot of money. On the chance someone on their team does see this, hey, you know, is this the best idea? To be totally honest, this comic isn't completely up my alley since I'm not a fan of OCX canon. Even if said creepypastas aren't technically canon, point is, it's just not for me. That doesn't mean I don't respect this work and hold some adoration for this fan work. I can't say I'll keep up with the comic itself, but the dub definitely. It's cool to see that there will always be some part of the internet, no matter how niche it is. There's actually more Creepypasta Comic Dubs, but for the sake of my sanity and for my sleep schedule, let's just say you'll definitely see why I had to take it out of the just Creepypasta Comic Dub section when I get to the video eventually. If I do. I'm just one person with a lot of ideas, give me a break. Besides that, I'm so happy I can finally sit back, relax, as I no longer have to look at any popular whatsoever dub involving Creepypasta. Oh? Who's this? You found the remains of pasta monsters? I thought that was lost media. I checked Reddit. What do you mean that's not a reliable source? Whatever, just send me the link. It can't be that long. Let me just... 225 pages? And it's still continuing? When did you say that this was made? 2010. That's a whole 14 years ago. I don't know why I do this. There's so many. I definitely wasn't there for the peak of creepypasta and the fandom. Fandom wasn't even a concept that existed in my brain back then. All I knew was Jeff the Killer was scary and Tiki Toby was hot, and I kinda wanted to look like him. I didn't even interact with the fandom in comic dubs until years later. I was late to the whole popularity, so I just couldn't tell you what it truly was like. But to help me better understand, I reached out to someone who was at the height of the fandom, who even was a mass contributor to it. That being Pshattuck or Pshattuckproductions, the creator for Creepypasta Chronicles, and where most popular dubs took place. Not only did I get her to come on, but I also got the voice actor for our favorite guy ever.
I have crayons and paper here!
Hooray! Kyzer was also heavily involved in the community, even meeting Pshattuck through it. You know him mainly through his work as Masky, but he was also Slender in many of the projects as well. Little fun fact as well, he does voice D in the English version of Metal Family. If you want to see what he's currently up to, as well as Pshattuck, their links will be down below. With the opportunity I had, I asked them a few questions, and oh boy did they deliver. Genuinely, thank you guys so much for this.
Hello everyone, I'm KyzerGameZone, otherwise known as KyzerGameZone, formerly Kyzer in the Voices. I am a voice actor, singer, and writer, and I am joined today by...
Hi, this is Pshattuck. I am a comic writer, comic artist, and I'm just enjoying going back down memory lane today. And you can also call me Paula, but you can also call me Pshattuck, or if you want to be like Kai when we first met, Paula Pshattuck.
Good grief, you're never gonna let me live that down, are you?
No, I am not. So we decided we were gonna I'm gonna read his questions and he's gonna answer. We're gonna bounce back and forth with our responses, because to be honest, the seer was the reason I found him to begin with. So a lot of our dubbing history is with Kai and myself. So
pretty much, like, if I'm being honest, the whole reason for us knowing each other as well as we do is because of me auditioning for her stuff. But we'll get into that when we start answering questions. But
yeah,
since we have such a tight history together, we figured it'd be easier just to bounce back and forth between the two of us.
Because we really do, honestly. Even before we got together, we were just best friends that we would do dubs together, so...
Yep. Let's get started so that way we can get this ball rolling and we can honestly see our history in greater detail.
And cringe.
Alright, so lay it on me.
Question 1. Were you aware of who Masky/Tim was outside of the creepypasta space? Had you ever seen Marble Hornets prior to being the main voice for Masky in dubs?
Honestly, no. When I first started voicing Masky, I did not know about Marble Hornets. I was just going based off of what I was instructed to at the time, which was basically to try and mimic the voice actor prior to myself and just do as well as possible in that regard. And slowly from there, after mimicking that voice, my own voice just sort of kind of built up from there. As for Marble Hornets, I really didn't know that that was where he had came from at the time. After I had delved into the fandom thanks to Paula here, that's when I learned about the Marble Hornets connection, and I learned about everything related to that. So that's more or less where I was when it came to that. Bear in mind, when I first did this, I was very young and very new to the internet space.
The Assassinator.
Oh god, please don't bring that up.
For context, that was his old username.
Yeah, but regardless, when I first started, no, but now I am more familiar with Marble Hornets.
Thanks to me.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Question 2.
I look at her for the next question like, hello?
Sorry, memory lane's coming back, and I don't know if I want to be on this right or not. How does it feel having been the voice of Fan and Masky?
Truth be told, I didn't even know I was Fan and Masky's voice until literally this recording. I'm gonna be completely honest. For me, Masky was always just a fun role that I did, and I just enjoyed playing his character, no matter what the comic was, because no matter what, he always had some of the more fun, interesting dialogue bits, and he was just a fun character to voice. I had no idea that I had this sort of fan impact to the point that people considered me the fan and voice for him. Like, that to me is astounding, you know, and for doing this voice for as long as I have, it's like, whoa, really? I thank you, I'm humbled, but I genuinely had no clue, you know, it was a shock.
He doesn't like to think he's as popular as he was.
Shut the frick up. I just do what I think is fun, you know? I don't think of, like, popularity or anything like that. I just think of having a good time with it.
Question 3. You also were the voice for Slenderman in many projects as well. What was your inspiration behind the voice?
Once again, when I was casting the seer for Slenderman and Masky, initially it was just, you know, kind of build off of the original voice. But as time went on, I sort of liked the idea of Slender having a sort of more regalish tone, you know, more of a kind of upper class sort of British style of voice. And to me, given a lot of the roles that he was typecast in, you know, being sort of this wise, grumpy elder, having to take care of all of these different proxies and creepypasta characters, I felt that that sort of elderly tone fit him better. I would just sort of build upon that and sort of deepen the range, sort of find this sort of anger inside me and just kind of let that build and fester, which is where that came from initially. So
he also based it off a YouTuber called Tierra Grace. He's actually really funny. You should look him up.
Yes. Tierra Grace definitely did add a lot of the more sassier elements to his character, especially a lot of the vulgarity. So.
Especially when you start coming to Chronicles, and then we just kind of build off from him from there.
Yeah. But that's pretty much the inspirations for that, in terms of Slender's voice. Honest to God, those two characters have always been sort of like my go-to fond ones. Like, if there's ever two voices that I will always have a cherished spot for, it is Slenderman and Masky.
Yeah.
So
And Bob.
I'm Bob. Just because Bob is pretty much just Ed. Bob is Ed's voice. Like Ed from Ed, Edd n Eddy. That is Bob.
For context, we used the Creepypasta Bob for Creepypasta Chronicles, which I looked back at the artwork of that, and I am just cringing. But
You were young.
I was 18. No, 17. I started that in 17. Never mind. We're getting off topic with your stuff. Number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get the informant? I have crayons and paper here in the Masky voice.
Oh, good God. I haven't done that one in a hot freaking...
Embrace the twink.
I have to embrace the Twinkie Masky again?
Embrace the twink.
If that's what the people want, I am glad to deliver. I have crayons and paper here.
Oh, no, you can do it better than that.
Oh, come on.
Embrace that inner twink.
Jesus Christ.
Embrace the Twinkie.
What do you... How am I supposed to embrace it when you're making me die of laughter?
I just do that on
Oh my
instinct,
God.
honestly.
See, this is why I have so many bloopers and recordings, because this one here loves to make me laugh. Okay, since you want me to embrace the twink, I have crayons and paper here. God, it's gonna be so weird having that now as a high definition recording.
I know, back in with these new microphones and not the little Yeti or what was the other one?
The Snowball.
The Snowball,
God,
yeah.
Everyone and their grandma had a Snowball
I
microphone
had
back
a
then.
sock over mine for a pee filter. What's it called? Pop filter. Why did
P filter?
the P? Oh God. We are professionals. I promise you.
Totally.
We're just rusty. We haven't done this in a long time.
It's been how long?
Oh my God. I think that our last dub was a couple months ago with Pizza Tower, but at the same time, we really haven't been doing much because of work and real life stuff. But anyway, so here's the questions. I'll answer first, then you can chime in and you'll read the questions.
Yeah, sounds good.
Alrighty.
Okay, so question 1. What got you into creepypasta?
Oh my God. So there's a hit. That's some history. My Mysteries and the Unknown class in my junior year of high school. I was looking up an idea for a project for that class because we got to do things like paranormal stuff, serial killers, etc. So kind of fitting. And I stumbled upon something about the Slender Man, and it intrigued me a lot, so I started kind of deep diving into that, finding out about creepypasta and all that, and I guess that's how it all started in terms of the fandom, like Slender Man during my high school class.
Personally, for me, I got into the creepypasta fandom because I was sort of getting into horror movies, horror media at the time, and I had heard about these stories called creepypastas. The first one I was genuinely introduced to was Jeff the Killer and his smiling mug. That freaking Photoshop face haunts my nightmares.
That was my second one, actually.
But yeah, then I stumbled across a little comic called The Seer, and I was very intrigued by that, and it all just kind of snowballed from there for me. I attempted my own creepypasta with The Senseless, which you can't find anymore because I deleted the account.
I think I might have the audio still somewhere.
You delete that audio.
Nah, I have it.
No,
I don't have it.
Get rid of it.
I don't have it. You're good.
Thank God. But yeah, but for me, it snowballed greatly after I met Paula and auditioned for her series, Creepypasta Chronicles, because there were so many different characters that I had to learn about just to understand, like, okay, what's this person's shtick, you know, what's this, what's that. So I just basically went on a research binge to learn about these sorts of things.
I still remember that. I DM'd you by chance to hopefully have you be part of the Creepypasta Chronicles, which all but one episode is still on my channel in the dub-wise, as well as the 2 other iterations I try to do. There's some history.
There's major history with that. On to the next question. What got you into voice acting / dubbing?
For dubbing, ironically enough, The Seer and Pasta Monsters. I honestly never thought of the idea of doing dubs until I started seeing those, because I wanted to do my own series, but I thought with YouTube you'd either have to be an animator or a live actioner or even a narrator. So when I saw those 2 comic dubs, I was like, maybe I can do that.
And then along came me.
And then along came a history of us dubbing multiple things.
For me, voice acting has always been the dream. Like, ever since I was little, I have always wanted to be a voice actor, so this is my passion. This is my dream job. I hope to one day, in the future, be a professional in the industry. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but I can at least look back and say that I did provide voices for at least a niche audience for a little while, you know? But voice acting has always been what I want to do with my life.
AKA he just is humble about it.
Shush your face. Next question. What had you stay in the fandom for as long as you did?
Oh God. For me, I would have to say just the creativity of everybody, because I love horror in general and I thought it was great, but there was a lot of bumpy roads during my experience in the fandom, including my own stuff with my series. Just the creativity of Vine animations or fan films. Oh my God, there are so many Slenderman fan films that I saw that I just absolutely adored. Marble Hornets, Tribe 12, all of that fun stuff. It was the creativity that kept me for as long as possible in the fandom, I want to say.
For me, I was just following along with Paula at that point because she was really into it. I am not as heavy a horror head as Paula is. She is horror junkie. I am horror light. That's the best way to put it. While she was deep in the fandom, I was sort of coattailing it and just enjoying the ride, as it were. But there were things I appreciated about it. I liked the abundance of different stories and characters. I liked the idea of narrating and being sort of a storyteller that harkened back to old radio shows where you would just have to listen and use audio to perceive everything that was going on. Elements like that kept me deep in the fandom, you know, that, and every day it seemed like there was a new story or a new thing that would come out in the fandom that would make things more interesting. Especially like the video game creepypastas. Those are some of my favorites because you've got got classics like Ben Drowned, Sonic EXE, and those have branched off and created all sorts of new, more creative things.
Which, fun fact, Ben Drowned actually was an ARG, not even a creepypasta. He just kind of got meshed in there like Slender Man did.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Huh, wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Night Minds video. You can take a look at it.
I'll have to check that out sometime.
Yeah. That's the other thing I like about creepypasta is, like, you could just have your own horror thing, and all of a sudden it is like, oh, it's a creepypasta now. And it's like, okay, put him in the mansion.
The mansion.
The mansion.
Good God, the mansion. That was always the go-to when it came to Slender stories. They had a mansion. Always the mansion.
I like to think he has a nice little cabin just somewhere out in the woods just to chill and drink some tea and listen to lo-fi.
Wow, what a mansion. Okay, on to the beefier questions.
Oh, God.
What made you stop doing dubs / slow your pace?
Okay, so there is a history, and I am going to say this now. There was 2 times that I fully stopped in the fandom and in the dubbing industry when it came to creepypasta. If you don't mind, I would like to answer this one first, and it might be a second.
Go for it, hun. This is all you.
Okay, I'm going to separate it in 2 ways. The Chronicles era, which was my series, and the IEPFB era, because I had a big gap where I wasn't doing creepypasta-esque stuff for a while. So I'm going to consider them eras, because that's the best way to put it. Chronicles was my very first project. I absolutely adored it, but it definitely had a lot of bumps along the way, especially because halfway through writing it is when the Slenderman stabbing incident happened. And that kind of put a damper on things, which definitely did. It's kind of hard to really write a story about having Slenderman be a father to his own child when someone else's child got stabbed because someone wanted to do something stupid. That slowed me down for a little bit, because then after a while, after I realized, it's bad, but it's not bad. You shouldn't stop creating because of one bad incident. But I did take a break for a while in respect for the incident that happened. And then when I got back to it, I started dating, not Kai, another guy. And when I started back up on the comics, he was constantly asking people if I could put stuff in my own comic, asking me to change things in my own comic. And then it got to a point where it's like, I can't do this. I can't keep adding characters because someone's telling me. I want to make this for me. And after a while, it just stopped being me. So I ended up stopping Chronicles at that point until college when I tried to redub my old stuff. And then that didn't work out that well. And now to the I Eat Pasta for Breakfast stuff. I enjoyed dubbing it, but it was definitely one of those things where at the time YouTube was my only income, and I was just looking for stuff to dub at the time. And I'm like, you know what? I used to like this comic when I was younger, when it first came out. Why don't I ask the creator if we can dub it? They said yes, and we started doing it. But then people kept constantly asking for more parts. Like, when's this part coming out? When's that part coming out? At first it was innocent, because we did have to stop for a while when Toby wanted to change Lulu's story from how it was in the comic, and that's why there was different images and how the style looked different, was because Toby wanted to fix that. So we waited until they got all the drawings done, and people were asking, which no big deal. No big deal at all. But then after that, we were just waiting for more pages to come out. We were waiting for more mindsets, because I was going back and forth to college at the time, and just people constantly just kept asking. So after 3 years of working on the dub, I'm like, I'm done. We are not doing this no more. And then we tried a few things with creepypasta stuff, and after a while we were just too busy, so we kind of just had a falling out with creepypasta stuff for a bit. And now Kai's turn, because I know there's a question somewhere about I Eat Pasta for Breakfast, so I ain't gonna go too far into that yet.
The next question is, how would you describe your experience in the fandom back then?
You didn't answer your question. You didn't answer your part of the question.
Oh, why I slowed my pace?
Yeah.
I honestly thought this was more like for your stuff.
No, you got the same questions too, fucker.
Okay, well, personally for me, why I slowed down on my stuff, I honestly just kind of got burnt out. That's the main thing. With my channel, veering off a little bit here, Paula inspired me to start up my own channel during all of this, because I always wanted to do Let's Plays. I wanted to game, just like Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and many of the YouTubers of old. So I wanted to throw my hat in the ring and give it a shot. And when I got some success out of it, I was like, oh, great, this is sustainable. But then I went too far. I thought the only way to garner any sort of viewership as well as staying relevant was to upload one video a day. And bear in mind, I used my voices heavily in my stuff. So I would be doing multiple voices multiple times a week. And bear in mind, 7 videos is quite a lot, especially when there's one going up every day.
Especially when you edit to the point where you have stills of every single character.
Yeah.
And you'd put time-based them in your timeline. This man would have it so bad that his computer would go chugging because of how much he would edit.
Yeah.
We had to do an intervention for him to be like, hey...
Yeah,
that's enough.
I had to slow down. I really did. And there came a point where it was like, this is no longer fun. Like, this became more of a chore to me than actually being entertaining.
And for context, the reason he's bringing up his channel is because he actually used Slenderman as one of his voices for his channel.
Yes, Slender was a big part of the channel. And when you're not having fun in your work, it becomes a chore. And I didn't want my channel to become a chore, so I pulled back. I took some time off, and I've been experimenting with things that I want to do with the channel, and right now, with GameZone and the PNG tubing, I think I found a good fit, and I have plans.
Remember, this has to be pasta related, baby.
Right.
You can do your own autobiography later.
I know, but I'm just saying this because a certain someone that we are writing is going to be part of it, so it is slightly relevant.
Oh, yeah. So
that's the only reason I'm bringing my part up. Now, on to the next one. How would you describe your experience in the fandom back then?
Mine, besides the IEPFB for Breakfast era, it actually was very welcoming. Chronicles was actually a big thing for me. Everyone really liked it on DeviantArt. My comics did really well. I even got fan art of my character, Sen, which was the daughter of Slenderman. And Creepypasta was very warming and welcoming the first time I joined. I am going to say my experience at the beginning was a very good one. Except for a few... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, except for a few situations where if you need the receipts, I can try to find it, but I remember when I was trying to audition and finding voice actors for my thing, I actually tried to get a hold of SnuffBomb, who was the creator of the original Pasta Monsters dub, and ask if he wanted to dub for me. And when I told him what I was working with and stuff, he told me basically I had no talent. So that was one of the bigger negatives for me, but it was also a drive to do good, and I want to say I think I did okay.
I think you did too. And personally, for me, the fandom was very welcoming, especially for someone who had no idea what the heck he was getting into. So, I'd say, honestly, mostly positive experiences on my end, too. I would say that learning about the fandom and learning about creepypastas was definitely the most interesting part of it all. And I would honestly do it again if given the opportunity to go back in time and redo a lot of the stuff that I did,
Or do new things.
Yeah, and do new things.
Totally not hinting at something.
Yes,
wink, wink.
I know, but even so, I would definitely say that definitely more positives than negatives for us both. Now, on to the big one.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
You knew this was coming.
I know, I've been waiting for that one.
What was it like having hosted I Eat Pasta for Breakfast and the popularity that came with it?
Listen, I'm gonna say right now, no hate towards Toby. No hate towards anybody. When you do something and you think that it's a good idea, definitely second guess or definitely relook, especially if you're doing it because you're trying to keep your fans happy as well as yourself happy because you need to do it. I Eat Pasta for Breakfast was a big thing for me, and I remembered countless times doing the dubs with everybody and editing them and uploading them, and Toby was very sweet throughout the whole experience, and I'm not gonna knock her, or because I know there's drama during this time with her and a few of her friends. As fun as it was, and as challenging as it was, there is a lot of things that I look back on and I'm like, that could have been better. Or maybe go back in time and tell past me like, hey, you're gonna stress a lot about this comic, because with the popularity it was awesome because we had so many people reacting to it. Like, you can still find Christine's videos of the 2 parts that she reacted to of our version of I Eat Pasta for Breakfast. But behind the scenes and off in the fandom in general, it was challenging because I guess there's times when I would be editing after everybody sent in their lines, and I would find one random ass character that I looked over that had a line. I'm like, oh, fuck me. I look for people. Like, I didn't want to audition for the one character for the one line. So I'm like, I go to all my voice actors. I'm like, hey, who wants to do this? Or at times I would do that too. Like, I want to say the biggest one that I remember was episode 2 when we did Lulu's backstory. I believe that was episode 2, if not it was 3.
I think it was 2.
I know it was the one where Toby had redone Lulu's story. And I'm editing it because I thought it was all a slideshow and our voice actress for Lulu just read the lines. Then I forgot that there was speech bubbles of the bullies. And I was like, motherfuck. Because I always tried to do a time. Like, if I'm like, this is getting out today, I get it done today. So there'd be times where if I had time alone at the house I was at, I would record them real quick. So almost every non-Lulu voice, if it wasn't Kai who did the principal for the one speech bubble, it was me. Like, everything else was me in that Lulu backstory that had speech bubbles in the papers and the images. I guess it was a fun experience too, just because, you know, it kind of got me thinking of, okay, I gotta look for these things, and if I got this, what can I do? It was a challenge, and it gave me something fun to do. But I want to say fandom-wise was the worst part of it, because if we didn't upload anything that wasn't a new episode of I Eat Pasta for Breakfast, that is all we would ever get in the comments of any of our other videos. And it got to the point where it just got so annoying and so demotivated, because that's all you would see. Like, it's like, okay, I want to do my own original comic and do a dub of it, and down in the comments you'd get a few nice ones where it's like, oh, we love this, it's awesome, or, you know, criticisms, which I don't mind criticisms at all. But it's when you go down and in like 5 or 6 comments in a row are like, where's I eat pasta for breakfast, where's this, where's that. It got to the point where I think we were waiting to do the last one of the episodes when Lazari runs away from Slenderman and the nightmare happened. We were waiting on a few voice says for that, and it was around April Fool's Day. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do something for April Fool's Day. So I took scenes from our old dubs and I did green screen memes. And I thought it was really funny. And I'm thinking, oh, people might get a kick out of this. No. I got a lot of hate for doing that because they just wanted the new episode, because I literally titled it I Eat Pasta for Breakfast episode. I can't remember the number, but they got so pissed because they just wanted the new episode. They didn't want the funny. So that was always a pain in the neck. And then live streaming. And this was like throughout a whole year of not uploading a single episode of I Eat Pasta for Breakfast. And we literally declared in the last episode we were done with it. It got to the point where we had to put in our streams during the stream rules audibly, do not ask for I Eat Pasta for Breakfast. We are not doing it no more. And that's why I ended up deleting almost every episode of I Eat Pasta Breakfast off my channel, just because it got to the point where it's like, you guys, we're not doing this no more, we're done with it, I can't do this. So they all got deleted, because at that time almost everybody has re-uploaded it as a movie, and we moved on from it. We did do the Storytime with Slenderman thing, which that was a lot of fun. Just Slenderman reading random ass shit with random ass characters. Nothing ever got back to that popularity of I Eat Pasta for Breakfast, but I honestly, it's bad when it got so bad in the fandom where it was like, I don't care. I'm doing me. I'm happy. If they want that, they can go. I probably should not say what I want to say. Basically, it was fun, but it was kind of regrettable at the same time.
Honestly, I don't even need to add anything to this. Paula pretty much summed it up perfectly. As fun as it was in the beginning, the popularity made it absolutely daunting to work on it, especially the comment section. I can't tell you the amount of times I would peruse the comments and see that question that is forever burned into my brain.
Do you remember when I sent you screen caps of the spam filter on a lot of those videos?
Oh, I do. I remember vividly.
We had one person spam about 30 times on one video where I Eat Pasta for Breakfast is at. And it's people like those that make it so hard to enjoy what we're doing.
Yes, like, we appreciate the fans immensely, but it's when they push like that it becomes like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah, but this is also going to be a knock on our fans that stayed even after I Eat Pasta for Breakfast, because I actually had to get involved in one of those. Someone made a video after we said, we're not doing this no more, you gotta give us time, we're on hiatus. This is before I decided to shut down the I Eat Pasta for Breakfast project entirely. They were just basically being really nasty and just saying how we don't need a break, how, oh, you can handle these comments, and then our fans went and said something, so I had to step in and be like, yo, this is a little too far. It's a thing. And then I also have to find it kind of funny because Toby at the time came up to us and told us how she was rewriting and redoing the entire I Eat Pasta for Breakfast series, only to have nobody really look at it because it was all her own characters, her own things. We still have that episode up to this day, but I don't even think it hit like 100K views. It's been so long I haven't really looked.
Right, it's been a very long time, but
that's how you can tell people just wanted the name and not the content.
Let's move on to the next question.
Okay, so this one they did misinterpret my question a little, but it's a mistake on my part. I could have phrased it better. What I meant by creepypasta fandom consists of OCs made by teens was that their characters were kinda handpicked and chosen as canon, like the authors of Tiki Toby, Clockwork, Eyeless Jack, I believe even Jane the Killer, etc. were all by teenagers who just made their own OCs for the fandom, and then that gained popularity. But I still really like their input anyways, so it's okay. It goes to show there really is a lot to this discussion.
As we know, the creepypasta fandom consistent of OCs primarily made by teens, not having one project it's solely based around. How do you think this contributed to the fandom and the atmosphere it fostered?
Oh, I can definitely... Oh, shit, I got a notification. Phone, I thought I muted you. Okay, so back to the question.
Yes.
I swear I have ADHD. I think... in a way, because I was around when the creepypasta was like the wild west. Some people definitely took the characters to just kind of add on to their stories or to do fan fictions, etc. And the fact that they don't understand the concept of, well, teens, I should say, don't understand the concept of you can't control everything on the internet doesn't help, because there's been so many times where people would take a creepypasta character and use them, and then there'd be people who are like, you know, that's not how they're like this, or, oh, they're in love with my OC, or, oh, this, oh, that, and then it gets to the point where some creators would change their characters, and they're like, oh, that's not how they are, and it's like, it's annoying, and I feel like at points there was some great things that were made in the creepypasta community when it came to that, but I also feel like it was also a big downfall because people would just claim the characters as their own or have their OCs shipped with a character and then they'd get mad. I couldn't tell you how many videos or how many DeviantArt journals I would read where people were upset over how someone portrayed a creepypasta character or how their OCs were given. And then you have people who just would take the characters and mark them as their own, which understandable. People would get mad. There was something else I was gonna add to that, but I can't remember. Shit.
Well, since you need to think on that, personally, I am not sure how to approach this question, but personally, I think the fact that we had a younger audience building these characters and then trying to claim, like, this question confuses me, just based on wording.
Basically, she's talking about how the fact that people would make creepypasta characters and then people would take them and use them for their stories and portray them in one way, or basically ultimate fan fiction.
Honestly, in that sense, I can see how it would be kind of chaotic. Because you have this massive cavalcade of characters just constantly being shipped around and just ending up in one place or another, and then people getting defensive about it because it's not this interpretation or that interpretation, and it gets so hard to keep track of what's, valid and what isn't, what's people genuinely upset about something, or what's a fan just overreacting to something. It gets very hectic and very chaotic very quickly, and at the end of the day, I just stick to the original source and go from there. Any sort of fan interpretation, I see as, don't bully people about it. Like, if you have an interpretation that's your own.
That's the gist. Basically, I love the creativity, but when it came to certain people in the fandom, it definitely felt more like bullying.
Yeah. And I bullying is a no-no in my books. Okay. Final question. What do you have to say to anyone who wants to join the creepypasta fandom, or who's a newcomer, or anyone who wants to start a comic of their own and possibly dub it?
Okay. Actually, I really like this question, because I do feel like that, yes, during the years, creepypasta definitely had a lot of its own toxicity, but what fandom doesn't? Like, every fandom has that moment. Not to name names and to keep it family friendly, even though I'm pretty sure I said fuck like 50 times already.
You did.
I think the best thing I can say about people wanting to make their own comics and dubbing and anything in the creepypasta fandom in general, just have fun and understand that not everything is gonna be hunky-dory. There's gonna be those people that just are pissed or upset because that you portrayed a creepypasta character wrong, and that's another thing. Make it your own. Like, if you, like, I can say that this right now, we are actually working on a comic with the Slender Man, and it's definitely not the same as anyone else portrayed him, as far as I know. I know there's gonna be those people who are like, oh, that's not how Slender Man is, and that's something that you're gonna have to understand, that there's gonna be people like that, and you're gonna have to understand that there's also gonna be people who are like, oh, where's this page, where's that page. The best advice I think I can give to a budding creepypasta artist, comic writer, or even a comic dubber: make it your own. Make it your own and try your best not to let the fandom bring you down. And that's something that I wish I would have done when we did IEPFB for Breakfast. And definitely make sure you are fully aware of what you're getting into, because sometimes you think you do and you don't. Best thing to do, be you.
If you're looking to join the creepypasta fandom, definitely do your research first. I say this because there are oftentimes people get into something and they don't know what they're getting into. Creepypasta at this point is a cavalcade of horrors in and of itself. Not just the stories written, but also the situations arisen from the fandom itself. So if creepypasta is something you genuinely want to get into, genuinely want to write or become a part of in any capacity, I highly, highly recommend do your research first. So that way you know what you're getting into, you know, what sort of fandom this is, and what kind of characters you can expect to find. You know, because, like I said, there's a million different interpretations of XYZ characters, and it's going to get confusing. So do your research first. And as for anyone wanting to do comics and dubs, go for it. You know, express your creativity in any way that you feel that you can. Just go at your own pace. Because believe you me, we can tell you from experience, burnout kicks your butt. Hardcore. And trying to output for the sake of popularity is not worth it. You need to go into creating with the mindset of, I just want to make something to make people happy, because at the end of the day, that's what your content is doing. You're bringing a smile to someone's face, whether you know it or not. Hell, I didn't even know I was fanning Masky till this recording, for goodness sake. I had no idea that impact that one voice had on a community of people. Whether you know it or not, you might be making a difference in someone's life. So go into it with the passion of making people happy. And at the end of the day, you'll be happy too, because you're doing something for the good of it, not for the reward. And I think that's it.
Yep. This is not for the recording, but if you want to put it in, Spooky, you're more than welcome to, or just save it. I don't care, you do you. But thank you for the opportunity. If something comes up and we didn't answer the questions the way you wanted them portrayed, let us know and we will record them. But thank you for this opportunity, and I'm really glad I got to reach out to you. You are very good at what you do. I really liked your videos. I still listen to them for noise, to even write my own creepypasta. Well, not even creepypasta anymore, but my own comic with Slender Man. And it's fun to watch Kai cringe a lot when he hears his voice.
The old days of my voice acting. Honest to God, thank you very much for this opportunity. It's honestly been interesting to kind of deep dive back into the roots of where my voice acting came from. And in all honesty, it's eye-opening and humbling to see how much of an impact that this has had on a community at large, you know? So for me, it was quite the eye-opening experience, and just reliving all of those memories and seeing how far I've come in all this, just, it's very much a humbling experience. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I look forward to seeing more videos from you in the future. And I guess since I did one infamous line, I can afford to do one more. Paula, you already know where I'm going with this.
Is it oh so edgy?
Oh, so edgy.
For context, in case you don't know, that was a catchphrase for our Storytime with Slender Man series.
And with that, we bid you adieu.
Bye, Spooky.
Okay, but can I just say, each and every single time that they said my name, I literally felt like I got one of those fucking, like, celebrity things where you pay for it and they, like, say something for you. I felt like I'm the guy on the phone with Gwimbly was talking to. Alright, okay, internet terms. Just, you know, accept the money. Unsurprisingly, Spooky Here channel has no budget. Anyways, final thoughts. Congrats if you made it this far. Honestly, I doubt this video will get more than like 10k views, but I can't say I care. As long as it reaches those weird cringy kids who watch these comic dubs, aka me. I'm the weird cringy kids. If you couldn't tell, I still am. I'm struggling not to get sappy or turn it sappy in a way, but projects like these, and really any video I make about fandom, I hold very close to my heart. Even with all its negatives, nothing beats the creativity of a fandom and how a fan's work can bring it together. What draws me into the creepypasta community and why I have so many videos I want to make involving the fandom is due to the fact that it's solely based around creatives. Nothing of production, just writing by people who enjoy it. And through that, it manages to make a fandom for itself and is so popular to the point you can walk past a Jeff the Killer costume in your nearest Spirit Halloween, even without consent from the writers. Gotta love capitalism. You can definitely give props to things like the Creepypasta website, that now has more ads than a pirating site, but that's just the website these horror stories are published to. A name to the community as a large. If anything, it is just a chaotic amalgamation of some of the best to worst writing of horror. You have to even give credits to the rewrites. Like Paula had said, Ben Drown wasn't even a creepypasta, he was from an ARG. But now he's one of the most iconic characters from it. But it's not even only that. The writing isn't even all there is to the community, because it's also created by the artists. So many of the iconic looks for creepypasta could be thanked to the artists, such as Nita the Killer's scene look, Eyeless Jack being this humanoid-like demon with gray skin. The whole reason Tiki Toby blew up, because both his story and look contributed to his popularity. And whoever made the Slender Mansion concept, give them a medal. They deserve it. Slenderman as a pseudo father figure, give them a damn crown. To the people who tweak the concept, where it's like a psychological horror with manipulation, I'm ready to give you my credit card information. Like that's my point. There's so much to this fandom because it relies on the creativity of the individual. And because of that, we got iPasta for breakfast, we got the Seer, we got Pasta Monsters. And yeah, sure, back then, things were a little lacking when it came to the writing and how things went about in projects, but that's why it's in the past, because in the future you have the opportunity to learn from those mistakes and to make something better, especially since the internet has grown and fandom of course has developed. You go on better with these things and you have the ability to do proper research to make it come true. Creepypasta basically being building blocks to your own world or interpretation. And the reason why I've made such a big scene with comic dubs, to be specific, is because it takes something in every field. Because you need writing, art, voice acting, as well as editing, and even if there's no money or something backing it up, it's still possible and is admirable from a creative perspective. And I think it's so cool that fans of this can come together and put something out there for the community, by the community, no matter where your talents may lie. And I'm going to be honest with you, if you are to search up comic dubs now, you will find nothing but lewd dubs. A lot even being of underage characters. How this gets past YouTube, I do not know. Like, it scares me to think that instead of something like the cringy pasta dubs, kids like me who see the fandom they like consume things like that. Of course, there will always be some concerning things on the platform, but still, adults do have the right to dub these comics with permission from the artist, but they should be hosted on other sites instead. Since, let's be real, safe spaces for kids, especially on the internet, are slowly dwindling. That's not to say that there aren't still regular comic dubs and people who still dub hanging around. Definitely not getting the same views as the porn bait or something from years ago. Other than a few lucky ones at a fandom's peak, they're definitely still kicking. There will always be an audience for this kind of thing, and I'm proof of it. This whole video is. I don't think comic dubs will ever die. As long as there's a fandom, there's going to be a comic, and as long as there's a comic, there's going to be a comic dub. Something I do think isn't acknowledged enough when it comes to comic dubs is that people will use AI for voices too. Even if it's just someone voicing over some lines, I think it should still be talked about, since voice acting and dubbing are creative forms. Which is why it's a little disheartening to see people push aside AI voices, because it's not just the art industry that is struggling with artificial intelligence taking over creative spaces. So it's a big reason why I like to talk about fandom and the creativity of them, and I think comic dubs are a perfect example of that, especially Creepypasta Comic Dubs, since it's a community solely based on people's imagination. Circling back to my questions at the beginning of the video, let's properly go over them, shall we? Get it? Because it's like a question, yeah. Okay, yeah, you get it. Anyway, why were they so damn popular? Which ties in with, why did people flock towards them like birds? Well, to put it bluntly, it was the early days of the internet and this kind of thing was pretty new. And what do you know, creepypasta was also gaining popularity at the time, especially Slender Man. Plus, the whole series aspect of a lot of them captivated the audience even more so, even to the point where you had people spamming for more. And let's be honest here, these weren't even that popular. Popular in the fandom, yes. It was definitely popular in the creepypasta side of things. As an internet as a whole, not really. Not really. Now, is it ethical to portray fictional murderers in such a way? I don't know. I mean, I would hope so. I made multiple videos on this community, so, it's not like people even focus on the murdering aspect of these characters. Well, of course they do, but it's not like I'm scrolling down the tags and seeing people draw them brutally killing people all the time. It's not like I'm seeing creepypasta fans going around saying murder is okay either. It's more focused on the characters and what led them to that point, and if you're interested in the Slender Man concept, just their dynamics with each other. So yeah, I think it's ethical or moral, I guess. It's just the extreme version of a misunderstood character that can be taken. Finally, would this still hold up to today's standards of the internet? Oh, fuck no. Earlier, I doubted that this video would even get 10k views. What did you expect? There's so many projects that many people would rather devour before touching this media in the year 2024. But that's okay. All that matters is that it reaches its targeted audience and it's something that you enjoy. Something you want to do. Something you can put out and you can look at and be proud of yourself. There's always an audience for something, no matter how niche. No matter if they tell you it or not, someone's watching and someone cares about it. Whether that be your friends, you, or maybe someone on the internet 5,000 miles away from you. And I think that's worth the shot of making something that you can be happy with. In my months of diving into creepypasta, I have never been so confused. The more I dig, the more questions I have than answers. I don't think I will ever know everything about creepypasta, and honestly, I don't think I want to. I will, though. I definitely will. If you're in the creepypasta fandom, you'll definitely find more as you go through. It's like a scavenger hunt. Creepypasta has been building up for over a decade, and it's only going to continue since the fandom is literally built on OCs. But that's the part that makes it fun. It's endless with endless possibilities. That is what makes it so great, as well as what makes it so awful. But you tell me, what was your experience with Creepypasta Comic Dubs, or just the Creepypasta fandom in general? This is where I'll be ending the video now. Thank you so much for watching. It really does mean a lot since this took me so long. Be sure to like and subscribe as well, since that really helps me out, and I would be lying if I didn't say the support is really encouraging to continue to do these endeavors. And shout out to Pshattuck and Kyzer for doing the questions. Genuinely, it was my favorite part about this video, and God, I cannot express my gratitude enough. Hi, if you're watching this, by the way. I've been Spooky here, and I'm going to bed. So I hope you enjoyed the video, yay! Little downer, but because of this video, I'm gonna go on a break, or hiatus, whatever, for a month or two. This video really tested my patience. It had me at my limit several times, but I'm definitely not gonna do a video like this again. I'm good with 30 to 40 minute videos, and if I do, it'll at least be a bit, or until like 2025, most likely. I had fun with the video, but it was very frustrating, and obviously I lost patience a lot. But it was a learning experience. I'll definitely say that. It was a learning experience, and because of that, I hold this video close to my heart, no matter how well or bad it does, even though I think it's gonna be a flop. It might do good, so, you know, if it does good, then make fun of me in the comments. I don't fucking know. I had a lot of self-doubt with this video too, with my humor, especially my humor. Oh, I thought I was so unfunny. Well, I thought I was funny at first, obviously, that's why I put the jokes in, but then I was like, could be better, and then I started just slowly hating it. You know, whatever, it's like a lesson for the future, and that's how I view a lot of these videos, with how I am. It's fine. So this video did happen over a lot of like in real life stuff, and thank you, Manchi. I really appreciate that. But yeah, this happened over a lot of mental health stuff, and a lot of it wasn't great. I have a lot of like struggles in real life with family and stuff. So I use videos and like the internet in general, always have, as an outlet to be like cringe and childish, because it's kind of hard to do that in my personal life. Oh god. Also, I was incredibly insecure about my voice. I still am. I'm always going to be insecure about my voice. I have a stuttering problem, for one. For two, I might have a speech impediment, I've been informed, but we're just gonna ignore that. And for three, because of my silly thing called autism, yeah, it's so great. I have a thing where I pick up the way people say things, and it's been an ongoing thing since I was a kid, but I'll pick up the way people say things, and because I've been watching, Marble Hornets over and over again, I've realized that some of the things I say are kind of a little bit southern, and it doesn't help that I grew up and, like, lived with someone southern for a while. Kind of have to tone it down and go back to the Midwest accent type shit. Especially the way I said fucking reboot. It's reboot, like T at the end, but I was just like, reboot? I hate myself for that so much. But it's fine. It's what I tell myself every single time I fucking hear my voice. It's fine. But thank you so much for watching. Especially if you made it to like my post video rant and you're just listening to me, which is fucking crazy to think about. I don't think anyone is ever gonna listen to it. But last thing, I have more links down below to help Palestine, Congo, and more individual links if you want to help individual like families or people to get out of their situation. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching my video. I put so much effort in these. If you could subscribe and do all that shit, that would be amazing. I've been spooky here, and this is the end of my my little rant.